refers to the Indian Ocean, and of course to commemorate the 160th anniversary of the arrival of the indentured laborers who came here in South Africa to actually do a number of jobs forcefully. And they have been a community that has really made strides in trying to actually improve their living conditions, as well as those that were affected obviously by the previous regime. With me now is Mr. Selvin Naidu, who speaks on behalf of the 1860 Heritage Center. Mr. Naidu, thank you very much for your time. Perhaps as you reflect on this day as the Indian community in South Africa, in Durban in particular, what does it mean?
Good morning, Simpiwe, and thank you for having me on the show. I think it's important as a South African of indentured ancestry that we commemorate this particular arrival of indentured workers that came to our country 160 years ago. They arrived between the years 1860 to 1911 on board 384 ships, 152,000 and 184 people that arrived here between those years. So it's indeed a very proud moment for us to remember, to reflect, and to be able to restore, but most importantly as South Africans, because this is one story of the many stories that are to be told of the collective South African narrative. And particularly 26 years into our democracy, many of these stories remain untold. So it's our duty, not just as indentured ancestry descendants, but as South Africans, to be telling these stories to our children, our grandchildren, and so that this legacy is being told and retold.
Looking at the challenges of the present administration, what are some of the challenges that you would say affect specifically the Indian community in South Africa presently?
Particularly in a post-COVID world and where we are today, poverty is rife in the tenements. Out in Chatsworth and Phoenix, unemployment is rife and the numbers are clearly growing. And this is the challenge to government, but also as individuals in society, communities, to be able to rally so that we ensure that people don't go hungry. People are indeed, we create more employment streams, and so that we rally as a community like the indentured community of the past to be able to grow the economy of KwaZulu-Natal, but also contribute so that it's a contribution to our people's growth.
Also, I believe there was a statue that was meant to be erected here some years ago. What is the process going forward, and what is holding that from being erected?
I think we've run into some trouble, but clearly this is a process and it's a journey. It's been 10 years and it ought to have been up by now, but there's been fresh impetus and there's been new hope. We have gathered together and we're rallying towards making sure that this is indeed done, and clearly with the youth engagement and with the Roads Must Fall movement as well, it brings to light how monuments in a 26 years into a democracy needs to change and we need to consider that these are things that needs a revisionist brushstroke. So in the months ahead, there would be more plans that would be unfolded and brought out to the community, and we want to engage with the community so it becomes a community commemorative monument rather than a grouping of people who've erected this monument. So it must service the community of KwaZulu-Natal, but also be a proud commemorative monument in servicing the community of South Africa.
What can be the role of the Indian community specifically in trying to foster social cohesion as well as racial tolerance in the country?
As I said, 26 years into our democracy, we come from a fractured past. And being able to reflect on this history, being able to make sure that our children are able to embrace this history. As I said, many of these stories remain untold. Stories like the Consulate 6, stories like, for example, the 1946 passive resistance campaign, stories like, for example, the 1913 strike, where workers, indentured workers, struck from work and the whole of Durban was closed because of the oppression that they faced in the plantations. So these are the stories that we ought to be telling to our children in recalling the proud people that have walked before us.
Mr. Naidu, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Simpiwe. I really enjoyed it.
That's Mr. Selvin Naidu. He speaks on behalf of the 1860 Heritage Center. It's back to you in Johannesburg for now.